Title: The Influence of War on Greek Philosophy and Literature. Introduction. Introduce the prevalence of warfare in ancient Greece, a period marked by conflicts such as the Persian Wars and the Peloponnesian War. These wars not only transformed Greek society, but also left an indelible mark on Greek intellectual and cultural life. State the thesis. The experiences of war deeply influenced Greek philosophy and literature, prompting thinkers and writers to reflect on themes of human nature, justice, the meaning of life, and the role of power. War served as both a subject and a catalyst, inspiring works that sought to understand the complexities of human behavior and societal structures. Section 1. The Impact of War on Greek Philosophy. War and the Search for Ethical Understanding in Philosophy. Greek philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle lived through or in the aftermath of the Peloponnesian War, which shaped their philosophical inquiries. Socrates, for instance, witnessed the moral and social degradation that war brought to Athens, inspiring his mission to seek ethical clarity and encourage Athenians to examine their lives. Plato, a student of Socrates, was profoundly affected by Athens' defeat and the execution of Socrates, events that influenced his views on justice and the flaws of democratic governance. His work, The Republic, reflects on the nature of justice and the ideal society, critiquing the democratic system that led to Athens' downfall in war. The role of war in shaping ideas on human nature and power. The frequent conflicts in Greece led philosophers to question the nature of power and the moral behavior of leaders. Thucydides, often regarded as the first philosophical historian, analyzed the Peloponnesian War in History of the Peloponnesian War, examining the causes of war and the corrupting influence of power. Thucydides' work highlights the concept of realpolitik, arguing that states act in their own interests, often disregarding moral considerations in times of war. This perspective on human nature influenced later philosophers and underscored a more pragmatic view of human behavior, emphasizing survival and self-interest over idealism. Section 2. War as a Theme in Greek Tragedy and Drama. Aeschylus, Sophocles, and the Tragic Consequences of War. Greek playwrights used tragedy as a vehicle to explore the emotional and ethical costs of war. Aeschylus, himself a veteran of the Persian Wars, portrayed the horrors of conflict in works like The Persians, which depicts the suffering of the Persian court after its defeat by the Greeks. His plays often examine the themes of pride, vengeance, and the consequences of human hubris. Sophocles, in plays like Ajax and Philoctetes, delved into the psychological toll of war on individual soldiers. Ajax depicts the tragic downfall of a great warrior driven to madness by betrayal, reflecting the trauma and moral ambiguity faced by soldiers. Through these characters, Sophocles humanized the experiences of warriors, revealing the psychological scars left by prolonged conflict. Euripides and the moral ambiguity of war. Euripides was known for his critical perspective on war and its impact on innocent lives, especially women and children. His play Trojan Women offers a haunting portrayal of the suffering inflicted on Trojan women after their city's fall, underscoring the brutality of war and its disregard for moral justice. Euripides challenged the glorification of war, depicting it as a force that destroys lives and values. His nuanced portrayal of both Greek and Trojan characters emphasized that suffering and loss were universal experiences, leading audiences to question the morality of their own society's actions in war. Section 3. War in Greek Historiography and the Realist Perspective. Thucydides and the Analytical Approach to War. Thucydides took a novel approach to writing about war by focusing on the human motivations behind conflict rather than divine intervention or fate. In History of the Peloponnesian War, he presents war as a product of human ambition, fear, and power struggles. His emphasis on realism and his critical approach to leadership and governance marked a shift in how Greeks viewed history. Thucydides' portrayal of events like the Melian dialogue illustrates his view of the moral compromises made during war. The dialogue, in which Athens forces the neutral island of Melos into submission, reflects the harsh realities of imperial ambition, showing how ideals often give way to survival instincts in times of conflict. Herodotus, Myth, History, and the Lessons of War. Herodotus, known as the father of history, recorded the Persian Wars in his histories. While his work includes mythical elements and anecdotes, Herodotus also sought to understand the causes of war and the motivations behind human actions. He viewed war as a complex interplay of human ambition, cultural misunderstandings, and divine intervention. Herodotus emphasized the theme of hubris in the Persian Wars, depicting leaders like Xerxes as driven by pride and overconfidence, which ultimately led to their downfall. Although less critical of morality than Thucydides, Herodotus still explored the impact of war on society and the recurring patterns of conflict in human history. Section 4. The influence of war on Greek philosophy's legacy and later literature. Socratic and Platonic ideals in the context of Athenian defeat. Socrates and Plato's philosophies were profoundly shaped by the war and Athens' eventual defeat. Plato's vision of an ideal society in the Republic can be seen as a response to the failures he perceived in Athenian democracy, which he believed contributed to the city's inability to make prudent decisions during the war. Plato's work laid the groundwork for later political philosophy by using Athens' experience to critique democratic governance and propose a society governed by philosopher-kings, whose wisdom and virtue would prevent the moral and political failures observed during the war. The enduring influence of war themes in Greek tragedy. Greek tragedy, with its exploration of war's emotional and moral costs, continued to influence later literature and drama. The themes of pride, revenge, and the psychological effects of war, as explored by Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides, resonated with audiences throughout history. Their portrayal of war's complexities and moral ambiguities set a precedent for later writers, who would continue to explore similar themes. The tragedies offered a space for audiences to confront the realities of human suffering and the ethical dilemmas inherent in conflict. By portraying heroes and ordinary people grappling with the consequences of war, Greek tragedy provided timeless insights into the human condition, making it relevant to generations beyond its original audience. Conclusion. The frequent wars in ancient Greece left a profound impact on Greek philosophy and literature, inspiring works that sought to make sense of human behavior, power, and morality in the face of conflict. Philosophers like Socrates and Plato used the backdrop of war to question the nature of justice and the flaws in democratic governance, while historians like Thucydides presented war as a product of human ambition and fear, challenging traditional narratives and inspiring a more analytical view of history. Introduction. Warfare was a central feature of ancient Greek life. From the Persian Wars to the prolonged conflict of the Peloponnesian War, these conflicts not only altered the political landscape but also profoundly impacted Greek thought, inspiring a rich body of philosophical and literary works that grappled with the human experience in times of struggle. This essay examines how the experiences and consequences of war influenced Greek philosophy and literature, with writers and thinkers reflecting on themes of justice, human nature, and power. The presence of war served as a backdrop, shaping a legacy of intellectual exploration and moral inquiry that continues to resonate today. Section 1. The impact of war on Greek philosophy. War and the search for ethical understanding in philosophy. The Peloponnesian War, in particular, left Athens politically and morally shaken, spurring philosophers to search for a deeper understanding of ethics and justice. Socrates, who served as a hoplite during the Peloponnesian War, often reflected on the moral decay he observed in Athenian society, emphasizing personal responsibility and the importance of self-knowledge. His dialogues with Athenian citizens challenged them to question their values, which he believed had been corrupted by the war. Plato, deeply affected by the loss of his teacher Socrates to an unjust execution by the Athenian democracy, expanded on these ideas. In the Republic, Plato outlined his vision of an ideal society led by philosopher-kings who would govern not through personal ambition but through wisdom and justice. This model was a direct critique of the failings he saw in Athenian democracy during wartime, which he believed had led to impulsive and destructive decisions. The role of war in shaping ideas on human nature and power. The Greek philosophical inquiry into human nature was shaped by the observation of both heroism and cruelty in wartime. Thucydides' history of the Peloponnesian War is especially notable for its dispassionate analysis of power dynamics, examining how fear, honor, and self-interest drive human behavior. Thucydides saw war as a lens through which to understand the darker aspects of human nature, offering a perspective that emphasized pragmatism and realism. Thucydides' recounting of events, like the ruthless siege of Melos by Athens, underscored a view that in times of war, the strong often impose their will on the weak, abandoning moral concerns. His work laid a foundation for political realism, a view that would influence later thinkers by stressing the limits of ethical considerations when survival is at stake. Section 2. War as a theme in Greek tragedy and drama. Aeschylus, Sophocles, and the tragic consequences of war. Aeschylus, having personally fought in battles like Marathon,